Hey peeps! So I've been asked about jade plant general care, and seeing as I haven't done one of these videos yet, I figured, well, why not oblige? So I've got a few of my jade plants down here at the moment, but I don't have them all with me because that's a lot of humping and bumping up and down the stairs. So I've just got a few of the types that I have. That'll be good enough to show you some general care tips and just talk about them. And if you guys want to see the update on my full collection, I'll leave a link below. So this is a piece from my original jade plant, which I've actually had since I moved to Belgium, which was about 10 years ago. So I've had jades for about 10 years, and well, I wasn't the best plant mama back then, let's just say that. I didn't really have a big interest. I neglected the hell out of it and every so often gave it water in one of the darkest corners of my home, so consequently it was really a sad state of affairs. And I'll link the original video where I'm taking the cuttings and the other videos if you want to look back and see them grow. And this one is now actually 3 years old from when I took the cutting from my original plant. And as you can see, it has really come a long way, and this one is the beautiful twin stalk one that grew from one of the small cuttings. And it has done an absolutely fantastic job in growing into something beautiful. So yeah, like I said, 3 years of growth right here from a teeny tiny cutting. That started from that, well, from a piece, say, about this big, where my fingers are. So quite impressive, huh? So let's go over some basic care, because this is your run-of-the-mill average garden variety jade plant. And a little bit of a back history, because, you know, it kind of helps to know where these plants come from. And a big part of learning how to care for these plants is to understand where their natural environments are and what kind of conditions that are there. So jade plants are native to South Africa, so they're used to very arid and dry climates. They like to take a full blast of sun. So they're full light plants, and they just grow into these amazingly beautiful bushes. And if I'm not mistaken, they're actually considered quite invasive because they're toxic, they're not edible, but they do look beautiful. And one thing that people commonly make a very big mistake with is confusing Portulacaria afra with this, which they commonly call baby jade. And the thing is, it's not even part of the Crassula family, and Portulacaria afra is actually edible. And when it grows in bushes, again in South Africa, it's actually used as food for elephants, which is where one of its colloquial names comes from, which is elephant food. In fact, I have a Portulacaria afra that I can show you, so I'll just show you the difference now. So this is my Portulacaria afra, or elephant bush, and you can see that it does sort of look kinda similar. I guess if you squint your eyes really tightly and tilt your head, it sort of looks the same, but in my opinion it really doesn't. But yeah, people do confuse it. And it comes in two varieties, obviously the solid green version, but I only have the variegated version, which I'm really not complaining about because I'm just a sucker for variegated plants. They just look so pretty. But one thing I can appreciate about the solid green ones is that they do grow significantly faster. And that's because, you know, all these white parts on the leaves that you see here just don't really photosynthesize, so it essentially slows down the growth process. But it's beautiful nonetheless. So there you go, that's a quick example of the Portulacaria afra. And In contrast, here is another Crassula, which I'll just quickly give a good example. And this is also a variegated form, but this is actually a Crassula, and this is the rubra marginalis. So it kind of looks more similar to this, but this is obviously, again, very different. But ooh, there's a spider web there. And I'm sorry about the rain, guys. We're actually having a storm here, but I'm sure you'll get over the background noise. But yeah, it kind of resembles more the rubra, but not. But yeah, as you can see, if you look at the traditional jade and the Portulacaria afra, you can see there is a clear, distinct difference. So there's your example there. I'll just move him out of the way, and we can get on with the other jades. Alright, so as I was saying before, these guys are native to South Africa, so they love the blistering heat, they love the desert climate, they're used to arid climates, which is why they are succulents and have learnt to adapt and store water, like cactuses, but yeah, these are nicer. They don't prick you, and I don't really like the prickly plants all too much. I mean, if you do, no shade, they're just not for me. So because of their environment, you can kind of see that I've tried to cater to their needs here. Aside from the whole blazing direct sunlight, which, as a side note, I'll add, if you're keeping these as houseplants, then moving them from a house environment and into direct sun is just not a good idea, because they do need to acclimate. So if you were to move them straight out into direct sun, it will just burn them to a crisp, because they're just not used to it. So if you do want to move them outside for the summer, I would recommend transitioning them slowly. Start with a shaded place, because shaded outside is still significantly brighter than shaded inside. And then after a week or so, you can start moving them a little bit more into the direct sunlight. But I don't do that, because even though houseplants and jades can really thrive going outside for the warm periods, I prefer not to do it, because it kind of attracts pests and bugs that you really don't want to bring into your house. I mean, that stuff can happen anyway, but if you can avoid it, which I prefer to do, and it seems to serve me well, then I would just not do it. But that's me, and you know, it's your decision ultimately. So yeah, I'm waffling a little bit, I'm sorry. So yeah, as you can see, I have tried to adapt the soil by adding some sand. You can see the sand here, some extra gritty bits, which you can't actually see because I've put a little bit more of a top coat on it. But it has like these little leca balls, it has those Ceramis clay pellets, and I've just put it in this terracotta pot, so it's very breathable, it doesn't retain a lot of water, and that's the thing with any succulent plant. If you let it sit in water for too long, then ultimately you're going to get root rot and bacterial and fungal infections. So with these kinds of plants, less is more. And the beautiful thing about these low maintenance plants is that they will tell you when it's time to water them, and you can go weeks, if not a couple of months, and they'll still be okay. I mean, they'll look a little worse for wear, the leaves will look a bit puckered and soft, but these ones you can see are very firm and plump, so it's got more than enough water. But you can actually leave it an extended amount of time, which makes them ideal, especially if you don't want to spend a lot of time on plants but like to enjoy them anyway, or you're away from home a lot or traveling a lot. So these are a very, very nice, easy care option in that respect. So I don't think I actually have an example. Maybe I have. Yeah, because this one's here. This is one leaf that kind of came off. So you can see here, because it's been separated from the plant, it's almost very wrinkly. Let's see if I can focus on it. And unlike the other ones, you can actually kind of do a test and slightly squeeze it. Obviously, you don't want to squeeze it too much, because if you do, you know, it's going to break. But you can see you can really do this, and the water coming out the leaves like that. But yeah, this if you see this attached to the plant in this kind of state with those kind of wrinkles, and you can squeeze it like that, it's a good indication that it's time to water. So don't neglect your plants for too long. Oops. So over here, seeing as I'm showing examples from it, is my Crassula obliqua. And this is one of the cuttings that I took from the mother plant, so that's why it's a little bit small, and I've got it growing in this stone pot planter here. And this one's again, it's the same care. That's the great thing with jades. They pretty much all have the same care. Don't let them sit too wet, don't let them dehydrate, and give them as much light as you can in the house. You know, I usually do an east or west facing window so they can get some morning or evening sun, but never in the midday, because again, like I said, they're house plants, so you don't want to burn and fry them. More so with this type because it is variegated, and again, as I said about the white parts, these ones are just much more sensitive and they will burn, and you'll start to get those horrible rusty brown burn marks on the leaves, and it's really not all that aesthetically pleasing. But yeah, there's not really much to show on this one, but I'll show you anyway because it is beautiful. It's one of my favorite types. And over here is another variegated. This is the Hummel's Ghost, if I'm not mistaken, although you can't really see the variegation all too well. You can see a little bit there, you know, it's got that dark green stripe there, lighter green there. A little bit of yellow will come through, so hopefully those marks start to become a little bit more prominent the more it grows. But as you can see, this is one that I've not long given a brutal cut back to, so it's still recovering and regrowing, and I'm hoping to get a more aesthetically pleasing shape from it. But look at how gorgeous this trunk is. And that's another thing that plays into the watering. Obviously, the bigger these plants are, the thicker the trunks are, the more leaves it has, the more water it can store. So obviously, the older the plant is, the longer it can go without water. But the younger the plant is, the less reserves and capability it has of storing that water. So you do need to give the young plants just a little extra care. And because this one doesn't really have the white parts, but it is variegated in its own way, this one can actually take the same amount of sun as the traditional green one here. So yeah, as for feeding, I'm going to put my hands up and say I'm not very good with feeding. Maybe I give them fertilizer a couple of times a year. It could be more, but I don't like to baby them too much. And as you can see, it really doesn't serve me badly to not fertilize them as much as other people say to do. So maybe 2-3 times a year, if you remember. But other than that, it's fine. And your standard houseplant fertilizer or cactus and succulent fertilizer will generally suffice. So yeah, there you go, guys. That's all I can really think about for care for jades. We've covered light, we've covered medium, we've covered watering, we've covered fertilizing, and there you have it. I hope you've had your questions answered and you've enjoyed this video and I've not waffled too much. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for watching. As always, it's much appreciated. Much love, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.